welcome back to Revived and Renovated. We're so happy to see you here. I'm here with my friend Victoria Duerstock. I'm Paige Rien, and today we're really here to talk to you and to each other about all the intersections of the home and the work we do there and the work we do on our soul and spirit. And I think Victoria, you and I have found there's so many parallels. It's unbelievable. And I'm very excited that today we're talking about the word remade, which, gosh, so much meat on that bone. But I think, yes, why don't you start with that, Victoria? Because I think the scripture today is just, it's so much in my brain. I won't be able to focus until we start.
I know. I'm so excited about this one. I know you and I were going to record this one a little while ago, and life has been kind of chaotic for us both. And so I've been sitting with this one for a little bit, marinating, stewing, whatever you want to call it. And I love it because, our verses today really make me think of being remade. And it's the passage about the potter in Jeremiah. And the word pictures for me, I love word pictures. And for me, I can just envision exactly what is being said. So I'm just going to read it because I think it is so fascinating. This is from Jeremiah 18, and it says, "The word which came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, Arise and go down to the potter's house, and there I will announce my words to you. Then I went to the potter's house, and there he was making something on the wheel. But the vessel that he was making of clay was spoiled in the hand of the potter, so he remade it into another vessel as it pleased the potter to make." Now, later on, just a few verses later, it said that the Lord was talking to Israel, and he said, "Behold, like the clay in the potter's hand, so are you in my hand, O house of Israel." And so for me, I just love it because that picture of the clay on the wheel and it not going well, which if I was doing clay on a wheel, I have this vivid picture of it not going well. But in God's hands, he can remake and give us a brand new purpose with that remaking. And I just love Remade. It just gives me so many ideas.
First of all, I have the movie Ghost. I gotta get that out of there, but that's definitely in there. But but also, I don't know if people know this, but I collect hands. I'm obsessed with hands. I think hands are such a big part of our spiritual lives, our lives as makers and moms and caretakers and friends and husbands. I'm not a husband, but to my husband, you know what I mean? Hands are a big part of how we love and care for people and make things. And so I'm obsessed with that vision, that picture that you said of the Lord's hands, are such a powerful thing for us. And so every time I see hands in my house, I'm actually reminded of that I'm sitting in the palm of his hands and his hands are at work when my hands fall short, which they do, every day. I'm also imagining, clay on the wheel is real ugly. Like it's like a hunk.
Well, right. They call it a lump, right? Like this lump of nothing, right? There's no shape, there's no form. It's just a blob.
It is a blob. And it's interesting because I think sometimes with a design project, you're walking into a blob. You're walking into something that's really either covered in stuff that needs to be removed, or you're sort of seeing something in a very raw form. I was in a customer of mine is in full demo mode. And so you're seeing the very raw space. It's very clay-like, and you're sort of seeing it come to life very slowly. And I don't know, I think when we invite God in to see our homes as possibly, we bring the clay, but I think we can invite God into our process. I think he's there if we're open to it.
Absolutely. I don't believe, my personal belief is that God is not distant and far away. I really do believe that he cares about each one of us personally. The Bible's really clear. He knows the number of hairs on our head. He sees our tears, and he collects them in a bottle. Like these are very personal interactions he has with us, right? And so I don't believe he's a God that's so far off that he thinks, whatever I'm doing in my home has nothing to do with him. All of it does. Every part of my life, I don't compartmentalize my faith. It's really my life and encompasses everything. And I think that's true in our homes. And when we remake, a room or a space, we're part of that design and creation and things. And he is the ultimate designer and creation. So I think that's part of being in his image.
I'm so glad you said that, because for me, in my, really coming to find and know God as an adult, I had to believe that God cared about me, even some of the most mundane details of my life, that he cared about how I function throughout the day and how my well-being. Like if I didn't get there, if I thought that God only cared about sort of like the wars and I don't know, like just sort of the more dramatic situations and circumstances and sort of humanity on the whole. And it was kept really, if I couldn't bring him into caring deeply for me as a human being, as a solitary human being, I wasn't going to make it. And so that was a sea change for me of really understanding God cares. And, you know, I remember, I was working with a friend on a dining room and we're talking about, that I do think that she has this giant dining room and we're making it really, really beautiful. And I think God has a plan for the dining room. You know what I mean? And I really do. I think that she's going to open it up and it's going to be a place, a shared table for our community. And I think it's just going to be, it's more than just, well, do I like this wallpaper and is this pretty or is this not? Does God even care? I think that God does care because God has a plan for it. I know you feel passionate about this too, about the spaces in our lives where we can invite others in. I mean, that is, and you gave me this beautiful term, which I'd never heard before, mission work, right? Which is really like, that's talking about giving the home a purpose and a beauty that is well beyond, well, this paper is kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or this sconce, or, you know?
Yeah. I actually kind of talk about that a lot because I do think we kind of miss that we could actually leverage all of our resources in a different way for kingdom work, for missions, for mission work, for reaching out. And that could be selecting items for storage that we can throw kids' toys in a hurry. Like if we know people are coming in the door, we can be like scooching in the other room, dumping things in, a cube that has a lid, and then you feel a little better that it doesn't look quite as crazy as it did earlier. Or the size of my dining table, or the flow of my room. And will this flow well when there's a crowd of people that are coming in? Because we're planning ahead to make people feel welcome. And I'm definitely passionate about that. Don't get me going on that road.
Oh, no, I know. I can't wait to come to your house. No, but I know it, but I really think that's an important thing. We're remaking a space not for Instagram, not for anybody else's approval per se, but for the mission of our home. And but that's my soapbox. Like I'll get on that one in a heartbeat. Really, we're remaking a space in concert with God. I mean, that I think is just, that makes the home not a flight of fancy. When I was a younger person and I first said the first human being out loud, I think I want to be a decorator. I was like kind of embarrassed because it kind of feel like I grew up thinking, decorating was like kind of vapid and kind of like, maybe not important. Mm-hmm. And I still harbor a little bit of that sometimes. I think we can make it vapid, we can make it kind of meaningless, or we can also think about the home and all that goes into it as really like part of a sacred space. Yeah. Or part of a mission that we in concert with. You never know what the conversations at your dinner table are going to lead to in people's hearts. You don't know, what opening your home to somebody else means. And I feel like I don't feel like I am a great host, but I've had some times in my life with people in my house that have really felt like it was something else other than me was at work, and the time shared was, especially now when people are getting together now, even in the craziest terms.
Right.
Getting together again.
Well, getting together again in 2020 has to look different, right? And you and I, talked about this off camera just a minute ago. I mean, it's going to be the simple things really that are going to matter the most now. It's not the elaborate functions. It's not the most beautiful homes. It's everyone just desires being with someone or having a coffee together or, just a conversation, having a listening ear. I'm experiencing it. You're experiencing it. People are longing for relationships, and relationships, I mean, they're built in the kitchen half the time, like they're built around the common, ordinary, everyday experiences that have become extraordinary because we have all been so far apart for so long.
No, indeed. And I'm finding that we have a true hunger, for those connections that can be very simple. You do need a table and a chair, you know what I mean? Yes. But you might not need what you thought you needed. You might not need sort of the formality of it. You might not need, sort of the trappings of what maybe even your mom taught you needed to have people over, but really opening your heart and letting God do his work. I mean, I really do feel completely remade myself. I was that lump. And I do feel like now, if anything, I'm really clear that my role in a lot of my interactions and my work is not half. It's pretty small, and let God really guide me. Like, I will not mind be done. I mean, I'd like to be part of it, but a lot of times it's showing up and saying, okay, what's your will here, Lord?
I love that. Yeah. Being remade means even being made in his image. You know, we're created in his image, but then we fall short. You know, we're not holy. We're not just, we're not merciful. We're not any of the things that are the character traits of God. And yet he is still working on us. You know, there's a whole process of sanctification, if we want to use the big word for it, but he is sanctified. He is making us in his, you know, new and remaking us and, you know, taking all of that junk from us. If we let him, you know, that's part of the process too, is just being willing to be remade and to be made more like him. And that's my desire, you know, more like him and more of him and less of me, because there's a lot of junk for me.
Yeah, no, we came across this beautiful bumper sticker that somebody had, and it was the letters HE, and it was the greater than sign.
Yep.
Me. And my kids are like, I know that from math. I'm like, glad you remember that. And yes,
we're learning something.
Thanks be to God. He is greater than I, you know, and I think that's, so you know, I've talked about this before. I came to know God in the 12-step programs. And so the most sort of rudimentary explanation or understanding of God in those rooms is called a higher power. You do not have to read the Bible, believe in God. You don't have to say the word Jesus. You just have to believe that it's not just you and there's something bigger than you. There's something bigger than yourself. It's a higher power. And there's people that maybe spend their whole time calling it a higher power. But then there's other people that sort of, as I did, I was very much drawn to Jesus out of that and believe that for me, was footsteps to him. Yeah. But it's just, that was the seed of it. It's not just me, which is the good news and the bad news. Right? It's not just me. It's a huge relief. It's a huge relief.
Agreed. I mean, it's very relieving to be able to say, you know, it's not all up to me. You know, it's not all on my shoulders, because I think we carry a lot of weight on our shoulders, and it's not what I can do in my own power. And that is very freeing when we really allow it to be. So.
Well, it is. Well, I think we're going to call it close here. And thank you so much for this conversation. I can't wait to get to our next word, and I don't want to.
I know.
We got to move on, but thank you so much for joining us this week. We hope you have a great week. Thank you for discussing and thinking about Remade with us. We'll hope you will join us next time. Thanks so much.
Bye.